Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here, back for another video. As I was reviewing the producer's letter in a video earlier this week that I uploaded, I had a section in that video where I started talking about adventure areas a little bit, and that led to me to really start thinking more about adventure areas in DDO, why I like them so much, and why I really want to see a return on them. And as I was thinking about that, I went to the wiki, and I had to actually see how long it had been since we'd gotten a new adventure area. And it's actually been over 2 years, actually about 2.25 years, since we've gotten a brand new one, which was the Ruins of Thunderholm. We have gotten revamped versions of adventure areas since then, like Three Barrel Cove and Necropolis 4, but we have not gotten a brand new adventure area since Ruins of Thunderholm. Now, if I've forgotten about something, please tell me, but I don't think I have forgotten about an adventure area since then. So that led me to thinking what I like about adventure areas and why I want to see them return. So I want to just share my thoughts about why I think adventure areas are important and why I think they're worth the developer's time. Now, I think from what I read from developer posts, what we see, and what I can kind of interpret from what I see, why they're doing this, why they are not including the adventure areas, and it basically comes down to an allocation of manpower. The developer staff is quite short these days. I think everyone knows that. It's pretty obvious, and they have to pick and choose what's the most important. So they obviously have prioritized other things over adventure areas, and on that basis, I can't blame them for that. I understand that there are a huge list of things that they want to do with this game when it comes to development, time, improvements, and they have to balance all that, and they're not going to be able to do everything they want. But I think adventure areas are worth the time, even with the limited manpower, and here's why. We've seen this trend as the game's developed over the past few years of them, as I've said before, going away from adventure areas. They've built in more options to go directly to the quest. We've seen stuff like the epic Hound of Zoriat, where you just go straight to the raid. You don't actually have to run through the Subtron anymore. We've seen options even with as far back as the second expansion where you can pay a little bit to go to the quest immediately or just teleport there. We've gone away from this aspect of having to run through the adventure area to get to quests, and really prior to the past two years or so, you've pretty much had to run all the way through the adventure area to the quest each time. And up until the past few years, as I've said, that was the case for basically all content. Not that we didn't have content that was direct entrance from a public area, but you know what I'm saying. If there was an adventure area, generally up until the past couple of years, you had to run through it. And now it seems like we've taken a turn to where generally the case now is that it's either a public area or you have some kind of transportation option to get to the quest so you don't have to run through that adventure area. Now, this might seem like a good thing. You know, people often complain about adventure areas like why do you want to run through it? It's repetitive, it's boring, blah 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 blah. But I think it's important to actually be forced to run through the adventure areas, and why is because immersion. I've had this feeling as I've played some of the newer content that it just doesn't feel like as much of an experience, because when you have quests like the epic Amrath stuff, maybe the new, pretty much actually the past few updates, they've been direct entrance from the public area. It just doesn't seem, you aren't immersed in the quest as much if you don't have to run through it. Let's say, for example, the heroic Hound of Zoriat. When you went into the Subtron, you had to run through the quest, and it became almost like a quest itself. It became part of the experience of that raid, and that's why before they released Legendary Hound of Zoriat, I was on the forums really requesting and really kind of pleading my case for them to give us to not give us a teleportation option for that raid. Running through the adventure area requires oftentimes a learning curve. It requires a little bit of time investment. It requires a little bit of experience. But the main thing it does for you is it immerses you in the experience that you're having. when you beat a raid that you teleport to directly, or you just get to from an adventure area, it doesn't feel as accomplished. Like you don't you don't have that experience that you would have if you would have to go through a little bit more trials and tribulations to actually succeed in your goal. The goal, once you achieve it, just doesn't feel as fulfilling to me. Also, if you have a raid like the Subterran, actually learning and getting through the Subterran is part of the experience and part of the challenge to me, even if it's not exactly quote unquote part of the raid that you select your difficulty and enter immediately. It does become part of the experience because you have to learn how to get through that adventure area, and that's part of the challenge. The challenge doesn't just have to be beating down monsters. It can also be having to learn a map, having to navigate your way through a place. I think that's an important challenge that's been left out, and it's something that not only gives us something to learn, gives us a learning curve, which gives us something more to do, it also gives you that immersion, that gives you more of a feeling of completeness when you actually do complete that raid or that quest. Also, the good thing about having to run through an adventure area is that it adds to the lifespan of content. Think about it. If, say, we had the legendary Zoriat, say that the loot was extremely desirable and that everyone wanted to run it all the time, think of how much longer it would last, especially in the age of bypass timers, if you had to spend 20 minutes running through the adventure area before you could play the quest, instead of just teleporting directly there. It would cut down on the abuse of the timers because you just wouldn't have time to run that quest multiple times like you would if you have teleportation plus bypass timers, because with the bypass timers you can just teleport there, you can use the bypass timer, teleport there, do the quest, and I don't say it's like a 10-minute quest, raid, whatever. That means you basically can do like 4 or 5 runs an hour. Whereas if you did not have the requirement to run through an adventure area, you could only do like 1 or 2. So it kind of slows down the pace at which players are able to get through and wear out content. So that's why they're important. It adds to the lifespan of the content. So basically, the reasons of immersion, the reasons of content longevity are why I want to see adventure areas come back, but mainly because of the immersion thing. I really, really miss having the immersion of having to run through an adventure area. It makes it feel like an adventure. It makes you feel more accomplished when you actually get to the end of that raid or that quest. So that's all I wanted to say for today, guys. Let me know what you think below, if you actually like running through adventure areas, if you think it's stupid, or if you think it actually adds to the immersion and to the experience like I do. That's all for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe as always, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.